Good morning or good afternoon, good evening, sports, business, English students. How are you today? I hope everybody is doing very well and that you are keeping yourself happy and healthy and busy. I know it's very difficult when we are all under quarantine, right? When we're all stuck in our house or in our apartment. But I hope you live somewhere where there are not too many people. You can get outside and get some vitamin D, right? Get some vitamin D from the sun because that's very important to keep yourself healthy. So here we are on the second week of Sports Business English. As you know, there were supposed to be only 2 weeks of online classes, but Namseoul University has extended it into 3 weeks. They have extended our online classes into 3 weeks. So maybe you're a little bit disappointed. I know we have to listen to the lectures. It's not as fun as a real class, but remember this is for our safety. This is for our own safety. So we're just going to have to get used to it for now, and hopefully maybe after those 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we're going to get to have a real class. So I want to emphasize again, if you guys want to come see me, please come see me or send an email if you really want to talk to me. I'll wear my mask so we don't have to worry about getting any coronavirus. So here we are in the second week of Sports Business English, and I hope you guys had a good first week in all of your classes. How was your weekend or how was your week? I know some of you have to study for a lot of different classes, not only my class. I hope you're at least able to get outside and do a little bit of exercise. Again, that vitamin D and exercise is really important for your immune system, for your body, right? Read a book, study, cook a meal, stay away from big crowds of people. I hope you did something this weekend, though. So today's agenda, that is agenda, what we're going to talk about today is first, we're going to review last week's stuff a little bit. Make sure you remember it. We don't forget it. I know the old PowerPoint is still up, the video. You can just go and look at it again. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. So if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you can always see my uploads in there, and you can download it yourself from YouTube. So in that way, you don't even have to check the e-class if you have the YouTube app on your phone. You just open up YouTube, listen to the lecture while you're on the subway or when you're in your room or whatever. Okay, we're going to do a little mini quiz on here. It's going to help you review some of the vocabulary that we talked about. We're going to talk about some little conversation. In my classes, I like to do conversation. As you guys know, it's the best way to learn a language. Korean or English or Japanese or Chinese or Swahili, you need to speak in that language. However, we don't really have too much opportunity now to do so, right? So we're just going to review some tips about conversation. Maybe have some little activity or some little bit of homework, and you guys are going to practice it, hopefully, when we come back to class. And we're going to go over some grammar. Again, it's important that we use the grammar in the conversation, right? It's most important that we get to use the grammar in the conversation. But for now, we're just going to talk about it and review it, and hopefully you guys can use it in the conversation. We're going to talk about some aspects about office hierarchy. Hierarchy is like levels in the office, okay? So this is a part of business culture in the United States or in Western countries. We're going to talk about that and the difference between offices in America and differences between those in offices in Korea or in Japan or in Taiwan. And this kind of culture, it can be kind of an interesting conversation. It's something I'm kind of interested in, this culture difference. Then we're going to go over some sports vocabulary, some of which you might already know and some of which you don't know. And then we're going to talk about the upcoming schedule, what we're going to do in the next week or two. Remember, things can change. I want to let you know if there's going to be any really big change. If you have a question about something we're doing or something you don't understand, please again send me an email, and I'll give you another way to contact me at the end of today's lesson. Okay? So, I hope you guys are nice and rested. You're ready to talk, or you're ready to study, okay? So, first things first, a review, talking about introducing yourself to someone in a business situation. Remember, there are different ways to introduce yourself to somebody that might be a little bit different than what you're used to in a casual conversation. That's casual conversation that you have between your friends. So remember, always remember to greet as soon as you hear the other person's name. Say, this is my friend Peter King. This is my friend Jihyun Kim. As soon as you hear Jihyun Kim, you should say, oh, nice to meet you, Jihyun, or nice to meet you, Miss Kim. Always remember to greet as soon as you hear the other person's name. So if we have a chance to do a speaking test, we're going to do like a little interview, and you're going to have to remember these things. And I'm going to judge you whether you've remembered these in the interview. Okay, we're going to talk about introducing a peer to a senior. Remember, always remember to pay respect to the senior first. We're going to talk about the differences between American business culture, Western business culture, and Korean or Asian business culture, and how the difference between seniors exists also in America. It's not as strong as it is in Korea. We're going to talk about introducing two peers to each other. Remember, a peer is somebody who is your equal, somebody who's in the same basic position as you. They might have been there 1 or 2 years longer than you, but essentially they're your peer. They make about the same amount of money as you. They have about the same amount of responsibility as you. So they're technically your peer, your equal. How do you introduce peers to each other? So we're going to talk about that a little bit in today's lesson. As well, because we review it from what we did last week. And make sure you know how to pronounce their names. It can be a little bit difficult, I know. Now I'm pretty good at pronouncing Korean people's names, but when I first heard Korean names, some of them were a little bit difficult. And I know for you guys, some English names or names of people from other cultures can be a bit hard. So try to make sure you know how to pronounce people's names before you introduce them, because it can be kind of embarrassing for you and for the other person if you don't know how to pronounce their name, right? And if you don't know, you can always ask. You can always ask. It's not rude in Western business culture to ask questions. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today too. And don't forget to check if the two people you're introducing, the two peers, if they've already met. So you might say, Jihyun Kim, have you met Peter King? Oh, no, I haven't. Okay, well, nice to meet you. So check if they've already met before you introduce them. Okay, so that's a little review of some business culture things that I want you guys to remember, that if we have a quiz or a test or if we have an interview, then you guys are going to have to remember these things for the interview, okay? Okay, so one of the important things that we need to talk about is not only business culture, but sports culture and sports vocabulary. And of course, you guys are pretty good. I know you're experts in your field being sports, but some of these verbs we want to go over, we want to check. So let's do a little bit of a review of what we talked about last week. So remember, quiz time. Different sports situations require different verbs. I know in Korean you have different verb endings for a different verb, like 한다, 탄다, 놀자, right? Play, do, have. In English also, we use them a little bit differently. And from my experience, as I said last week, Korean students can have some difficulty remembering these. Remember that go versus play. And we really never say do when we're talking about sports in English. Or I can't think of a situation, maybe sometimes, but I can't think of it. I know do is a really common sort of translation for like a Korean verb like hara or handa. But in English, we usually don't do a sport, depending the situation. Okay. So fill in the blanks with the correct verb phrase, okay? This is your chance. This is like what we do in class, and we can give some prizes, but you guys are not here, so I can't give you a prize. I'm so sorry to tell you that. But we can at least practice, and we can have a little bit of interaction this way. So are you ready for the quiz? Okay, let's begin. Okay, I blank baseball every Friday after class. Well, this is an easy one, right? I blank baseball every Friday after class. What is the verb we use with baseball? I think this is an elementary one, and everybody knows this, and I know baseball is one of the most important sports in Korea. So the answer is I play baseball every Friday after class. I play baseball every Friday after class. Okay, ready for the next one? Okay, here we are. I blank swimming most summers with my cousins. I blank swimming most summers with my cousins. You know what it is? Yeah, you know what it is. Remember, I go swimming most summers with my cousins. I go swimming most summers with my cousins. Remember that in English, when we're talking about a sport where we have to go somewhere or do something, we use the verb go. If we're talking about a sport where you use a ball or a bat or a racket, we usually use the verb play. There are some exceptions, but generally this is true. I blank hiking at Mount Hala in Jeju last summer. I blank hiking at Mount Halasan in Jeju last summer. What's the answer? Take a minute and think about it. Do you know? I'm sure you do. I went hiking at Mount Hala in Jeju last summer. I went hiking at Mount Hala in Jeju last summer. Now you know that we talked about last summer. We're going to use the verb go. The past of go is went. The past of go is went. Good. Subin used to blank hockey when she lived in Canada. Subin used to blank hockey when she lived in Canada. Now, hockey is a sport that we don't use a ball for, but we use something similar to a ball, right? We use something similar to a ball. What is it? It was called a puck. It's called a puck. So if we're using a puck or a ball or something, we're going to use which verb? That's right. We're going to use the verb play. Subin used to play hockey when she lived in Canada. And if those of you who don't know, hockey is a very popular sport. It is the national sport of Canada. What's the national sport of Korea? Archery? Cheonan? Baseball? Soccer? I'm not sure. Tell me next week. If it's cold this winter, we can blank ice skating on the frozen lake. So remember, ice skating is something where we don't use a ball or a puck, and we have to go somewhere to do it. In this case, we go to the frozen lake, or you go to the ice rink, your vocabulary from last week. So if it's cold this winter, we can go ice skating on the frozen lake. Good. Well, I think in Korea you don't really go ice skating on frozen lakes. In America or Canada we sometimes do if it gets very, very cold. You usually go to like an ice rink, like an indoor ice rink, or like at Lotte World or something, right? But I saw some old photos of the Hangang. It was frozen and people were ice skating on it. So it is possible, although maybe nowadays it's pretty dangerous, right? It's pretty dangerous to do that in Korea, but it gets pretty cold. So I'm sure there's somewhere you can do it in Korea, maybe in Gangwon-do, right? Okay, so these are some verb phrases about sports we talked about last week. I think they're very important to know in a sports business class. So if I give you a quiz or a test or an interview, I want you to be able to use these verbs correctly with the correct sport. Okay, pretty simple. It's just a matter of memorization and using them correctly, right? Okay, so that's your little mini quiz. Let's go on to the next slide. If you're ready, you can always pause it if you're not. Let's talk about future goals. 목표. We talked about that last week a bit, future goals. We'll talk about it a little bit more today. Future goals. There are times when you want to talk about your goals in a professional setting, right? In your interview, at your new job, with your peers, with your boss, with your professors, with your teammates, with your coaches. There are times you want to talk about your goals. It's important to know how to talk about them. So when we're talking about our goals, we're often going to use the future tense, right? Future tense, 미래, of the verb to be to talk about these goals. And there are two main ways to talk about the future in English. So one, with a modal verb will. I will prepare the lesson today. Or the expression going to. I'm going to prepare the lesson today. So basically two main ways to talk about the future in English. And we're going to talk about the future when we talk about our goals, right? Okay, so the first one, future simple, affirmative. So affirmative means answering yes, right? A positive thing. Will, 반대, opposite, won't. Affirmative, negative. So in this sentence, the subject, your brother, will become famous soon. So we have will, that modal verb, plus the base form of the verb become. Your brother will become famous soon. My goal is I will be a famous soccer coach. So future simple, will plus the base form of the verb. Will become a famous soccer coach. Sometimes we might abbreviate it into a contraction. Your brother will become famous soon. We often usually do this in speech in English, but we do it less in writing. But if you wanted to write it down, this is how you would do it. Your brother will become famous soon. I'll become a famous soccer coach soon. Okay, so talking about goals, will plus the verb. And negative, of course, this is just the opposite. If you're saying something negative, subject plus will plus not in the base form of the verb. So my friend will not marry that man. Or the contraction, my friend won't marry that man. I will not work in Korea, or I will not work in America. My friend will not work or won't work in Korea. I won't work in America. So just making it negative. And the negative contraction for will is won't. Won't. Okay, W-O-N. And that little sign there is apostrophe T. Apostrophe T. Okay, so far I think this is pretty easy. This is just a review of most things you guys already know, right? So I don't see too much trouble here. Okay, and then there's the future simple interrogative. So you can see in that word interrogative, we mean this word, it's like in the word interview, it means a question, right? It means a question. So interrogative is how to ask a question in the future tense. So will plus subject plus the base form of the verb and a question mark. So will it rain tomorrow? Will you graduate next year? Yes, I will. No, I won't. Okay, so you put the subject after the verb when asking a question in English. A little bit different than Korean, right? But this is how you ask an interrogative statement. Interrogative statement. Okay, so future simple. Just a quick summary. Use the modal verb will plus the base form of the main verb for predictions. So you're predicting the future. You'll get married and have 10 children. Talking about something that's going to happen in the future. Or when you're trying to make a quick decision, I'll have another cup of coffee, please. I think if I give you a choice when to take the quiz, I think I'll take the quiz on the last day of class. Okay, quick decisions. Or promises, right? A promise a little bit different than Korean 약속, something that you say you're going to do and you definitely have to do. Okay, I will call you tomorrow. Okay, I'll give you my KakaoTalk ID at the end of class. Okay. So talking about predictions, quick decisions you have to make very fast, and promises, you're going to use the future simple, which is the modal verb will, plus the base form of the main verb. I think most things you already know, but I want to make sure that you know that how it's used: predictions, decisions, and promises. Okay, and here's a little chart if you need to go back and check, and quick reference if you're doing the quiz, looking at the PowerPoint, you can see all of the different forms of the future simple here. Okay, and another way we can say, talk about the future, talk about goals when we are going to do something. So affirmative statements: I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, you are, and they are. Okay, plus the verb phrase going to and the base form of the verb. I'm going to eat, right? Going to eat. Okay, and the negative, all you do for the negative is you put in not after the verb and before the verb phrase going to. After the be verb am, is, are, but before the verb going to. So if you are making a negative statement, I'm not going to eat today because my stomach feels sick. I'm not going to eat today because my stomach feels sick. Notice not comes after the be verb, but before going to and the base verb. And interrogative, that again, that's asking questions with going to. Use that be verb, then the subject pronoun, I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, going to, and the base verb. You can also make them short answers, okay? So if you're answering somebody, are you going to play baseball after class? Yes, I am. No, I'm not. So just the subject pronoun plus the be verb am, is, are, is, isn't, or aren't. Okay. All right, I think you guys know most of these. Let's see if you can do them on the interview. Okay, to be going to, we use be going to as the base form of the main verb for which situations? Well, for plans or intentions. So I'm going to practice hard to become a rock star. I'm going to practice hard to be the best goalie in the Korean League soccer. Predictions based on clear signs. Look at those clouds. It is going to rain, right? I might say, oh no, the Korean national team is going up against Argentina's national team again. Oh no, I'm afraid we are going to lose. I'm sorry to say that, but Argentina is really good, right? You might be wrong. But anyways, if you're making a prediction, you're going to use be going to. And a quick little reference chart for you can be very helpful if you are doing quiz. Remember, predictions, quick decisions, and promises, you're going to use will plus the verb. Plans and predictions based on clear signs that we can see, like rainy clouds, you're going to use be going to plus the verb. Got it? Okay, good. So I want you guys to take some time to make some predictions about your future. Make some predictions about your future. I'm going to be a sports merchandise marketer. So in this case, we're talking about future plans. So I'm using the going to verb. I think I'll make a lot of money because sports merchandise sells a lot in most countries. So I'm making a prediction based on the clear sign, right? Based on a clear sign. I'll get married at 30 or 35 and have 3 kids. So I plus will. That's another form of prediction about the future. I'm gonna, now gonna is a sort of abbreviation for going to that we might say usually in our informal speech between friends, but it's very, very common, at least in American English. I'm gonna graduate with the highest GPA, the highest score in my class. So future plans, prediction. Future plans or prediction, going to. So take a minute, look these over, and I want you to think about some predictions about your future. Think about something you're going to do, predictions about your future, either in this class or for your job or something along those lines, okay? Something along those lines. Okay, so let's think about our participation and homework score for week 2. So you guys know we have to do homework and participate every week. So what I want you to do for your homework and participation is I want you to make 6 sentences about your future. Okay, anything about your future with your job or with university or what you're going to do in these weeks where you have nothing to do. You're staying home, and I want you to use going to and will. Talk about your plans or prediction using the same 2 forms that we've just talked about. Finally, I want you to talk about someone else in the class and introduce them in the third person. I know you guys are the same major, so I know you have a lot of friends here. I want you to ask them about their plans, and I want you to speak about them using the third person. So the third person is like he, she, it. So this is my friend Yeowon. She is going to work for Nike. Okay, I want you to write these 6 sentences, and I want you to speak them on a video on your phone, record it. Okay. And when we actually come together for class, I want you to show it, and I'm going to give you participation and homework points. So this is another chance for you to get your participation score. Remember, it's a big part of the class, and this is how I can check that you participate. So on the first day of class, you're going to show me this. If for some reason we don't have class, then we'll have to upload it or email it to me. I think you guys are all pretty good at technology, right? So it shouldn't be too big of a problem. Things are pretty easy now. But for now, just record it, keep it for a week or 2, and once we come back to class, show it to me. If we don't have class, if the virus keeps going on, you're just going to send this and upload it to my email, and I can watch it and I can give you the points. Okay, I think it's going to be pretty easy. Pretty easy. All right. And if you have questions about that, send me an email, okay, or ask another student. Okay, so that's your participation and homework score for this week. Take a minute. If you didn't understand, read it over again a couple of times. Talk about future plans, 6 sentences of yourself and one of your friends in class. Record it in a video on your phone, just 30 seconds or 1 minute, okay? Okay. Okay, so as you guys know, another part of this class is not only talking about vocabulary and sports, right? But there's also a part in this class that's all about the culture of business. So this is about our worldview, how we see the world, our values, and our culture, right? I've written culture there twice. I'm sorry. It should be our behavior, right? So how our worldview and our values affect our behavior. So your culture might say, don't don't criticize. Don't tell an old person that they're wrong. So in Korea, your culture might say old people are wise, we should treat them well, and we don't want to make them feel bad, so we don't criticize them. Okay, so that's your worldview and your behavior, not criticizing old people, comes from this. Okay, so as you can see here, in Korean, people love to eat kimchi with almost every meal, right? It's part of your culture, it's your values. You think it's healthy, you think it's delicious, and so it affects your behavior. Although I know not all Korean people like kimchi. Okay, here you can see now in America, kids don't drink alcohol, but you can see here in Italy, places like Italy and Greece and Spain, kids can drink alcohol sometimes if they do it with their parents at dinner, drink a little bit of wine. Maybe that's true in Korea too, right? But it's not really true in America usually. So this is about values, values about family and culture, and it affects our behavior again. In another one, I put a picture here of Thai University in Thailand, Taeguk. The people, they sort of bow with their hands to show respect to their professors or older people at the university. And they always do this. It's very different also from America and also quite a bit different from Korea. Okay, so culture and values also affects our business behavior. This can make a big problem sometimes, right? Because businesses by its very nature, it's international, right? So sometimes it can create some sort of misunderstandings. So it's important we can understand some of these differences in culture and why people act the way we do so that we can avoid these problems and people don't get upset or angry or lose a lot of money because they made a mistake in the way they understood somebody else's culture. Okay, so this is what we call individualistic cultures. So there are individualistic cultures or me cultures. Okay, as you see here is the man. He wants to stand out. He wants to be different. Okay, America, the country that I was born in, is usually considered an individualistic culture, a me culture. Okay, usually America is like the country people always say is like, yeah, they're the most individualistic culture ever. Okay, the British Commonwealth countries, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, also are individualistic me cultures. And many, but not all, but many of Western European countries in the EU are also individualistic cultures. Now, I want to say here, not everything in America or England or Europe is necessarily individualistic, and there are sometimes that Americans or British act very mm, uh, very respectful towards groups of people, not just themselves. And I know that sometimes not individualistic cultures like Korea and Japan, people can also behave very individualistically. So I don't want to say that all cultures, all people act the same in every situation, but in general, we can understand these cultures better if we can look at it from this point of view as individualistic cultures. So the traits of individualistic cultures, they value uniqueness, unique style, unique unique ways of talking, unique ways of thinking, unique ways of art, okay? So unique things. So for instance, you might see something In America, I think it's cool to stand out a little bit. Not too much, but it's cool to be different. This is how like American trends are thought about, right? Even Apple uses that slogan, "Be different," right? So being unique, being an individual is valued. Autonomy, the next one here is autonomy, right? So autonomy means being able to do things, being able to make decisions for yourself is valued. Even if you're not the boss, you can make decisions for yourself. This is a valuable trait in individualistic cultures. Again, independence, right? That you're free of others, that you know things by yourself, that you know how to do things by yourself. You are independent. You can make decisions without your coworkers, without your team sometimes, right? You can lead. And a similar one is self-sufficiency. You know, it's similar to autonomy. It means you're all right by yourself. You can do things by yourself. You can get things done by yourself without the help of others. It's also very similar to these ones, but there's some kind of creative aspect to self-sufficiency as well, right? Okay, so these are some traits of individualistic cultures, and I think some not individualistic cultures, sometimes people behave these ways too, but in general, this is what we're talking about. Okay, so another type of culture is the collectivist culture. These are we cultures. They put emphasis on the identity of groups instead of individuals. So Korea, of course, you guys are from Korea. You know Korea is a collectivist culture generally. I put the identity on groups instead of individuals. So like for instance, I was a little bit surprised when I first came to Korea and one of my students wrote a quote. He wrote a quote from the Chinese philosopher Gongja, Confucius, right? And Confucius said, "The family is the smallest unit in society." Confucius said the smallest unit in our society is the family. And that was really surprising for me because I thought the smallest unit in society is the person, the individual. But from the Korean point of view, from the Chinese point of view, from the Indian point of view, that's not necessarily true, right? Your family, your university, your job, your team, these are the important things. And sometimes in America we think the same thing too, but in general I think Koreans think it more. Do you agree with me or do you disagree? India is another collectivist culture, right? They value association with the group more than association as yourself as an individual. And Thailand is another one. I know you guys are really familiar with like Japan and China as being similar to Korea, but I think India and Thailand share some things in common as well. They're collectivist cultures as well. Okay. So traits of collectivist culture, these are generalizations. They might not always be true. I want to say that. I don't want to tell you guys about your culture. You know better than me. But just so we can get things very clear here, why there can be misunderstandings in business dealings between cultures is for these reasons, right? Um, so traits of collectivist culture, there's social rules that focus on promoting selflessness, right? Promoting selflessness. So selflessness is the opposite of selfishness, right? You guys have rules about how you can express yourselves, about how you can ask questions, about how you can show who you are. You don't want to show that you're selfish, right? I think my students are usually very conscious of not being selfish, and it's a good thing in my opinion. They work together as a group. They work together as a group. If we can't finish the goal as individuals, I think Koreans are usually really good at finishing something as a group. Sometimes they're too good at it, my students. They'll work together when I really want them to work individually. But it can be a big benefit in a collectivist culture. And they focus on doing what's best for society. I think in general, with some occasional exceptions, I think Koreans have been very good at managing what's best for the society since the coronavirus has come out. And I think that's a reason why in Korea and in Japan and in Taiwan and Hong Kong, and even China's gotten a lot better recently. the virus is being managed very well, and I think it's going to disappear in the next few months. So they think about what's best for society in these cultures. And families and communities have a central role. They're at the center of these cultures, families and communities. Again, the family is the smallest unit in society, right? The family is the smallest unit in society. So, traits of collectivist cultures versus individual cultures. Okay, so now I'm not going to tell you guys about your culture, but I can tell you a little bit about Western culture and specifically American culture. So one of the big differences is relationships at work. Okay, in Western companies, business meetings are really important and they can be really formal as well. You know what I mean by formal, bande, casual. So you have to wear a suit there and you have to know your place, but work is work. And Americans are not really interested always in having like a very close relationship with people at their job. Work stays with work and it doesn't enter the home life. So we have maybe a different group of friends. I know many Koreans do as well, but I know Koreans like to do haeshik and stuff, and Americans do too, but they're less interested in that and they're a little bit annoyed about that, I think, compared to Koreans. Although I know some Koreans don't like haeshik too, right? Especially Koreans who don't drink. But we do have some office parties and office get-togethers. How do you think that compares with Korean relationships at work? Again, I know not everyone in Korea is the same. How about the jobs that you've worked at? I know some of you had part-time job, right? Arbeit. Is it the same or different? In general, we want to keep our home life, our personal life, away from work completely. And even though business is business, home is home. Okay, criticism in the workplace. So, criticism in Korean, in English, it means, judging other people, telling somebody that they did something wrong. Okay, this is very difficult for some people, but calling out is somewhat acceptable in American workplace. So calling out is telling somebody that they did something wrong, especially if it's the interest of constructive criticism. What's constructive criticism? Well, if I made a mistake in the PowerPoint and I see as I go through it that I made a couple of mistakes, if my student told me, Professor, you need to look at that slide again because I can't understand it, that's a constructive criticism. Your criticism can help me to understand what I did wrong. Especially, we think this is good if it's done like politely, directly, but politely. Okay, this is the direct approach. Americans in general value this very strongly, direct approaches. Okay, they like to establish a responsibility. Who did what, who did well, who did bad, not to blame them, but to establish responsibility because the individual gains from his responsibility if he did well, but he's also responsible if he or she did bad. Okay, there's less emphasis on hierarchy and age. So hierarchy means level, right? It's not totally absent. It's not totally gone, but there's less emphasis on it. So we can sometimes criticize our boss, especially we do it politely. I think in general this is frowned on. It's not good to do in Korea usually, but I know some bosses are more open-minded about the Western management style in Korea. And some American bosses are very sensitive as well. But in general, criticism in the workplace, if it's done politely and not like for revenge or boksu or something, then we think it's usually a good thing. Okay. Punctuality, as you can see the clock picture there, punctuality means being on time. Being on time. So punctuality is usually very strict in America. America is usually considered a strict, punctual country. It depends where you are, though, and some people are not punctual. If you're late for something in America, it's seen as a failing of you, right? You failed, Not like, oh, the train was late or it was raining or I slept late. No, it's your fault. Okay. I don't know. What do you think in Korea? Is it the same? Same. I feel like Korea is a little bit more free when it comes to punctuality, but it depends on the situation. Maybe I'm wrong. Um, Changing is it's becoming a bit more flexible. Nowadays, people are thinking as long as work is finished, then it's okay. It doesn't matter when it's done. And there's some geographic diversity here. So Spain and Italy are usually less interested in punctuality than a country like United States or Germany. And even in the United States, the East Coast is more strict, like New York or Boston, is more strict than the West Coast, like LA or San Francisco or Seattle. They're a little bit more free about punctuality. So this is a difference in the Western work culture as well. The only thing is we are okay about being late sometimes, but if it becomes a problem, you have to be ready to be called out. So if you come late, people are going to say something. Not only your boss, but maybe also your peers might say something as well. So you just have to be ready to be called out and be ready for some kind of criticism. Questions. This is something I know so well from my classes as well. Asking questions is common in American business. It's seen as a sign of intelligence and proactive behavior. What is proactive? Well, proactive means you are ready to make a decision quickly. Before I tell you to do something, you do it. You're a proactive person. A proactive person takes notes in class. They ask a lot of questions. So questions in America in work are usually, not always, usually considered a sign of intelligence and a hard worker. And bosses and even a CEO can be seen as just another member of the team. So it's okay to ask them questions. Okay. Even if they're not really on the same level as you, many places in America want the boss wants to portray that they're the same as you, right? This sense of equal. So they can be open to questions, open to answering questions, if you have a good boss. So again, what do you think about Korea? Is it the same? My experience with students is Korean students are not too interested in asking questions, but it depends. In my experience with sports business, they are usually very good at asking questions. They seem to be something about playing sports, I think, makes people less interested about criticism, right? I think playing sports socializes you guys a little bit different. So I've never had a problem getting questions from sports business majors. One of the reasons I really like to teach them, it's pretty easy for me. Okay, asking questions in America is seen as a way to contribute to discussion and growth of the company, growth of the team, right? Growth of the company or growth of the team. So again, questions are usually good. Okay, hierarchy and authority. So I tried to write it here, 계급 bin 관한, right? So you can see the illustration here on the side here. American organizations are often like flatly organized, right? With a lot of workers who are basically equal and then a boss or two at the top. Okay, so they're a bit more flat organization, whereas Korean organizations often, not always, are tall, right? There are many levels of authority here, of people to ask questions, to, people to communicate with. So hierarchy tends to be flatter in individualistic societies, but it's not always. There are exceptions. And communication between these different levels is more direct. As we said, you can ask questions. The boss is usually seen as the first member of the team. Suggestions can be politely made, but again, always prepare for criticism. And this hierarchy being flatter means that you don't have to be as formal around your boss always. You have to be a bit formal, but you don't always have to be extremely formal around your boss, as much as you might have to do in a Korean company. Okay. So hierarchy and authority work a little bit different in individualistic societies. Okay, so let's look at some questions. Let's look at some questions here. What are 3 ways that Western business culture is different than Korean business culture that we just talked about, based on your opinions? How could you adapt if you were working in a Western sports organization or business? So what changes would you have to make to your personality? Well, if you're a shy person, you don't like to ask questions, you're going to have to be more ready to ask questions, right? And what would you recommend if I'm an American person and I wanted to work in a Korean organization, a Korean office? What would I have to change about myself? What would I have to do differently? Think about these questions for a minute. Think about these. I want you to write down some quick answers. If we do an essay quiz or on your essay test, your midterm test, I might ask you these questions, and I want you to be able to answer in complete sentences. This is a kind of, you're getting your answer here, using the information that I gave you and applying your experience to make an answer. Okay, this is not homework, but I do want you to think about this, write down some ideas, because we're gonna work on it maybe on a quiz or in a conversation activity if we have class. Okay. So a couple other things that we need to talk about today. I wanted to talk about our sports vocabulary. Sports vocabulary for week 2. We're going to talk about fitness. Are any of you guys pretty good at fitness? Are you fit? Are you in good shape? Unfortunately, the Namseoul gym has been closed for a while. It's pretty sad, right? We don't have anything to do. People are afraid to go to the gym, unfortunately. But we can keep if you're out here in Songwon, you can go to the mountain or walk around. Luckily, there's not too many people, so it's not too easy to get sick out here, right? So we're always going to talk about vocabulary, and remember on your first quiz coming up in 2 weeks, you're going to have some vocabulary words on here. There's going to be 25 questions, so you're going to need to familiarize yourself with these vocabulary words. Okay, so the first one is an expression here. It's to keep fit. To keep fit. So to keep fit is to keep the body in good physical condition by exercising regularly. So if you're a person who stays home and you haven't been able to go out, you're likely not keeping fit while we're working against this virus, right? I do several things to keep fit, but dancing is the one I enjoy most. Actually, I'm not a good dancer myself, but I know many of my students keep fit really well by dancing. So to keep fit. So be able to use this expression in a sentence if I ask it on your quiz or on your test, or if you're asked to give it in a presentation or in the interview. To keep fit. Fitness fanatic. Well, you can see here is one of those very famous before and after type photos. Before, right, he has a beer belly, and after he starts to work out. So he became a fitness fanatic. What's a fanatic? Well, the English word fanatic is related to the word fan, right? It's somebody who's really crazy about something. He's a PC game fanatic. He's a soccer fanatic. He's a movie fanatic. Something he's really interested in. So a fitness fanatic is somebody who's really crazy about something. So this guy here, he was apparently a fanatic about beer and donuts and cheeseburgers, and he became a fitness fanatic. So it's somebody who's obsessed with keeping fit. So to be obsessed with is like to always think about it. To always think about it. So Sejun is a real fitness fanatic and goes to the gym every single day. How about you guys? Are all sports business majors fitness fanatics? I don't think so. I know some guys just like to stay at home and they like to watch sports, but quite a few of you are fitness fanatics. I know from my experience as well. Okay. Strenuous exercise. Well, what's strenuous? Well, you can see the word strenuous in there. Looks like the word strong or strength, right? So something that is strenuous is something that is very difficult to do, takes a lot of energy, makes you sweat, makes you hurt. This is strenuous exercise. So if you want to get in shape quickly, working your way up to strenuous exercise is going to be the best thing that you can do, right? The best thing you can do. Okay, it's exercise that needs a lot of physical effort. What would you say is like a strenuous exercise? What's like the most strenuous thing? I think soccer can be pretty strenuous, right? And some kind of aerobics can be also very strenuous. These days, I really need some more strenuous exercise to get into shape because I'm gaining weight from staying in the house. And staying in the house all the time is making me like crazy. I don't know about you. So I definitely need some strenuous exercise. I used to hate strenuous exercise until I took up running to lose weight, and now I really enjoy it. Now I really enjoy it. Okay, to get into shape, another before and after photo. I have some students who have some really good before and after type photos. How about you? Did you ever have this kind of situation where you had to get into shape? I know that a lot of the guys, when they go to the army, this ends up being the case, right? They have to quickly get into shape because the military can be pretty tough, right? The military can be pretty tough. So to get into shape means, yeah, to become fit, right? Like a good shape is to get into shape. Jiehua was so determined to get into shape that she started cycling to work. She started cycling to work. That's a good way to get into shape quickly, right? If you have to cycle every day, you're definitely going to be into your best shape, right? Your best shape. All this is making me want to go outside. How about you guys? And to take up a sport. To take up a sport. So what is take up? Well, take up means to start playing something. Okay, so it's a kind of idiomatic expression, something we say in casual conversation. You can see this little girl here. It looks like her dad is helping her take up tennis. It means to start playing, to learn to play. So take up a sport is to start playing. So I was thinking about taking up snowboarding. Can any of you teach me? Is anybody a good snowboarder? I really need someone to help me to take up this sport. What are your favorite sports? When did you take them up? Who encouraged you to take them up? I have always wanted to take up archery, and I'm going to join the new club that has just started in my area. You guys know what archery is? It's a sport. Korea is usually very good at it in the Olympics. I think in Korean it's called 양궁. So I always wanted to take up archery, so I'm going to join a new club that's just started in my area. Okay, to take up a sport. Remember, this is an expression you're going to have to use. So I took up soccer, past tense. He wants to take up archery. So on the quiz, you're going to have to actually say it in its correct tense. And a workout. This is one that's really common in English. It just means exercise. We use it like a noun here, though. So it's a session of exercise, usually in a gym. So my daily workout, I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to hit the gym and do a workout. I'm going to work out my muscles today. I'm going to work out my muscles today. Taehyun found that a workout at the gym helped her de-stress after a hard day of work. It helped her de-stress after a hard day at work. So many people find that if they go do a workout, a strong leg workout, arm workout, full body workout, after work, they feel a lot better. They feel a lot better. They feel less stress, right? They feel less stress. Aerobic fitness. Aerobic fitness. What are aerobics? Well, aerobics are things that exercise your heart, not necessarily just your muscles, right? So aerobic fitness talks about having strong heart and lungs and being able to carry out sustained, like long time exercise, like jogging or swimming or cycling. If you can run 30 minutes straight at full speed, I think you have a really strong aerobic fitness. How do you do it? Go to the gym, run, cycle. Swimming is very good aerobic exercise, right? Swimming is also very good aerobic exercise. So in order to be a competitive rower, you need a high level of aerobic fitness. What are some other things you might need aerobic fitness to be able to do? Think about that. It's another kind of question I might ask on the test. I might ask this on the test. And this one is to bulk up. To bulk up. So what is bulk? Bulk means like something heavy. We have an adjective in English, it means bulky, something that's like really big, very heavy, not easy to carry. So we have a verb phrase here, to bulk up. To bulk up means to get big. Some of the guys, I see them, sports business majors, after class, they're all at the gym and they're all trying to lift weights, but some of them still have some difficult time to bulk up, right? So it means to make your body bigger and heavier, usually by gaining more muscle. So we don't mean talking about just getting bigger, like fatter, but it means to get more muscle. Guys and girls sometimes want to do it. They're going to go to a lot of strength exercise, eat a lot of food, eat a lot of protein. This is going to help them gain more muscle. Guys, when you're working out, and some girls too, what do you eat to help you gain more muscle? What kind of protein do you eat? Some people have like a really no problem at all to bulk up, right? Some people are bulking up all the time, but they can't really get big. How about yourself? How about yourself? And he felt so much stronger since he started working out with weights, and his body was really beginning to bulk up. Again, this is a verb phrase, to bulk up. And this fellow here, although it looks a little bit photoshopped, it looks like he's been practicing a lot with bulking up, right? He's been practicing a lot with bulking up. What do you prefer, aerobic exercise or strength exercise? Good question. I prefer aerobic. Sometimes I feel like I get too big if I bulk up. I get too big. Sometimes if I do too many aerobics, I get too skinny though. I need to try to find more balance. That's a hard thing. Maybe one of you guys who works as the trainer at the gym can help me out with that. Okay, so remember there's a quiz online coming up after 2 weeks. Okay, it's going to be 25 questions, vocabulary, some of the vocabulary that we went over last week, vocabulary and expressions having to do with sports, and sports expressions, business vocabulary. So some things that we've talked about in the PowerPoints will be on the quiz, and I guess we're probably going to do it online. I'll give you more information as we get to it. I'm going to give you more information as we get to it. Right now, it's not 100% sure exactly what the questions are going to be, but I promise they're going to come right from these videos, okay? They're going to come right from the videos. So, don't forget to complete your student profile. It should be in the e-class right now. Some students had a little bit difficult time to find it, but they did find it. Remember to print it, put your photo, put a lot of information on it, and please bring it into me, hopefully on the first day of class. I hope on the first day of class. Now remember, on the first day, there's a small possibility there might be no classes. If that's the case, then maybe after 2 weeks you can send an email to me. You can bring it into my office. You can put it in the Gyeonggwan office, or you can upload it. I'm not sure yet because I don't know if we're going to have class or not. Okay, so we'll have to think about that. Just for right now, just do it. Okay, just do it and plan to print it and bring it to our class. If something changes, maybe in 2 weeks they're going to tell us the whole semester is canceled. I don't know, maybe. Then you might have to upload it or email it to me. Just if you did it, good job. I'm so proud of you. Fighting. Keep it for now and maybe give it to me next week or in 2 weeks, okay? Okay, again, you have questions, send an email. Complete your video of you speaking your 6 sentences. Okay, that's going to be due in 2 weeks about your goals. Make a video on your phone. Remember, I'm gonna be the highest paid CEO in Korea, my goal. Okay, and remember you have to give some sentences, future sentences about your friend's goal too. I know you have lots of friends in this class. Ask them and talk about their goal. Since I can't see you, prepare a video. Okay, it's going to be due in 2 weeks. We're going to upload it or email it to me. Okay, just prepare it. Everybody has a phone, I know. Everybody makes videos, everybody makes photos. Prepare it. Use the grammar that we talked about in class. Okay, so that's I will or I'm going to, talking about predictions or future plans. Don't forget that my email is george.namseoul@gmail.com. Some of you did email me and you introduced yourselves. Thank you so much. I really like talking to all of you. Some of you did not. That's fine. I know you're very, very busy with your classes. If it's a very, very important message that you have to send me, you can send a message to my Kakao ID. It's Yorgaki. Yorgaki. That's my KakaoTalk ID. Please, only if it's really, really important kind of thing, if you're really, really worried about something, about the test, you don't know how to do it, please send a message. Do it before 9 p.m. because afterwards I might be eating or sleeping or something, so I can't check it. And only send the most important messages there. So I know that if you sent that message to me on my Kakao, it's very important. If it's not important, if it's just like, what page is the homework, just send me an email. I always answer it. I never take more than 12, 15 hours to answer it. But if it's really, really, really important, you can always send me a cacao message, okay? And don't forget also, this time it's important to take care of your health, the most important thing. I know we're supposed to be staying inside, but don't forget to get your exercise, get your vitamin D from the sun. They say people don't get sick in the summer because the sun's vitamin D helps them prevent illnesses. So getting outside today was starting to get warm in Korea. The first day of spring has already happened. So that's a good thing. Get outside, get some sun, but stay away from crowds. Practice your hand washing. Always make sure that you're taking care of your symptoms. See a doctor. We're going to get through this thing. It's going to be a good semester. Quiz in 2 weeks. It's going to be an easy quiz, just the vocabulary. Don't forget to study. Have questions? Send me Kakao Talk. Send me an email. Make an appointment to come see me in my office. I would love to hear from you guys. I really hope to see your smiling faces very, very soon. Take care of yourselves. Have a good week.